Okay, we're going to start today's lesson to continue off from yesterday. Let me recap really quickly. I don't know if you have seen the video I asked you to see about a PSA that I made a long time ago, but I hope that you did so that today's lesson is that much easier. Why did I give you that video to watch? Well, honestly speaking, you're going to take one foot into this thing called accounting today. So if your parents hire an accountant during tax time, you might have an idea of what that might mean. Some of you might have absolutely no idea, but we are all going to take that first step. You will see why, as for example, your parents or guardians, or even you when you get older, as you become, well, there's more and more streams of income, there's more and more taxes and whatnot that you have to pay for. And so it's complicated. And that's why accountants are paid to do that work for you. And so the really good accountants, the ones that are in charge of multimillionaire companies, well, they get paid the big bucks because they do all the different research to make sure you keep all the money. 1 second, Evan. Ellie, you had a question? Okay, Evan? Yeah, you know, I'm going to talk about the presentation because today is so heavy. I want to get through it today. I might go ahead, you know what, I'm going to say it right now. Sorry, I'm dropping the ball on this, but I think it might be best that we save our presentation. I'm going to invite all the people who still need to present like on a 5-minute period during lunch. Just get it done with and you can go. And you don't have to worry about it, okay? I think that's the best way to do it because we are starting to feel the crunch, and today's lesson, well, we didn't expect it to be this complicated. Especially at the grade 9 level, we thought it was gonna be, yeah, it's fine. And then we realized, oh, I'm not sure if the kids are ready. Right? I'm not sure if the kids are ready for the brackets. By brackets, I mean the more money you make, you have to do more calculations. You make little money, you only fall under a certain category, and it's a lot easier to calculate your taxes. The more money you make, you actually spill over into different parts called brackets. Long story short, if you saw the video, you know that the more money you make, you have to do multiple calculations. You have to do a separate calculation for here, where you get taxed 5%. If you make more than a certain amount, then you got to cut that part off. And you have to calculate the money above this amount, you have to calculate at a 9%. And if you make more than that, then the next big chunk of money you make, you have to calculate it at an 11%. It gets complicated. So we're going to do some examples today. Yes?
Yes. Let me know how presenting. There's no new worksheet.
No new worksheet. I want you to take up the one from yesterday. Yes?
I don't ask this question every time we start a new unit, but since it's like getting to the last question of school, do you have
Possibly. Probably an assignment. Because more so than being able to do something like this on a test, I'd rather you be able to understand your own finances. That's the whole point. Financial literacy is being able to take responsibility for your own money.
And is there another unit after this, or is it
Tiny small one. Okay? So before I begin, remember this is all from yesterday. Before I begin, the answer key that I put on our Google Classroom has this little disclaimer. Even what we're doing here is actually oversimplified. Maybe closer to the end of today's lesson, I will show you the Government of Canada's website and how they give you an example template of how they calculate taxes for you based on some salary. And you will see that it's so overly complicated, at least at a grade 9 level, in my opinion, humble opinion, that it's hard. If you really were interested, or if you're responsible when you're older, maybe you'll get a chance to figure it out. But today's goal is to know that something like this, a simplified version, something like this exists, and your parents or guardians, parents or guardians go through it every year. Right? I remember so many students in my previous years were like, yo, why don't we learn something important like taxes? You're right, we should. But I hope, although I still give you a simplified version, that you don't memorize the math behind it, but you understand the concept so that when you do reach an adult stage, that you are somewhat aware. Quick disclaimer, okay? Yeah, so today we're going to continue yesterday, right? And who saw the video? And number two, the question is, what did I want to say? Yeah, I guess a taste of adulting, right? So that's the goal. Not necessarily the math, but you understand how the money is broken down, what the government does. And so how you might use that to your advantage. I don't know, you name it. Taking a look at this sheet, I'd like you to go to our handout. So let me see if I can oh, there it is. Share our handout. Here we go. Okay. In your own words, maybe with an example, somebody who has seen the video, can you explain in like a short couple sentences how taxes are calculated? Yes, give it a shot. So for example, let's pretend I made $36,500. What's my tax? It's really important. I'm going to do 3 different examples. They're all different. So really pay attention. This is what's going to happen to you. Essentially, it could happen to you in 3 years. If you forget post-secondary and decide to go to work. Yes. 5.05%, except for something else. So yeah, normally, did I not plug this in? Are you serious? Okay, give me a second. So normally you would say, okay, I made $36,500. What is 5.05% of 36,500? Right? So what's the math behind it? What is of mathematically? Multiply. Good. Okay, so this would be, I need to leave all this up here because I need these numbers. Okay, let's do this. Norma, don't write this down. You would think it's 5.05% of 36,500. And so you turn that into a decimal. You turn of into a multiplication, and you have this amount of money. Ta-da, I'm done. Not true. In Ontario and Canada, there is a certain amount of money they will not tax you on. It's called the basic personal amount. You are entitled to some money without any tax. In other words, in 1 year, if you make $11,000 or less, you won't get taxed. Simple as that. So it's not 36,000. I need you to consider this, all right? Up to $46,226 is going to be taxed at 5%. But the first 11,141 is not taxed. So let's do this. Ready? 36,500. I think it's better if I type this out. There's a lot of numbers here. If you have messy writing, make an effort to write neatly. 36,500 minus 11141. Okay, it's fair. Equals. Really quickly, let's go. Calculator, calculator. Everyone, bring in a calculator. Calculator. You are going to be an accountant today. It's going to be really, really annoying. After today, you will appreciate accountants all over the world. Nate, you had your hand up first. Oh, what's the question?
Is it like the personal basic principle? Is that from all of
Oh, yes, it is all your income in 1 year. The first 11,141, they tax you on it and then they give you the money back. Essentially, they will tax you, and then afterwards they're like, oh yeah, here's your tax credit back. So it's like you're not being taxed. Okay. So I'm gonna write a little disclaimer. It's taxed, but given back. They won't. Otherwise, the country is committing fraud, which won't happen. In fact, they do it automatically, I think, when you file your taxes. Yes? 850, 859. Okay. So out of your 36,500, only this much will actually be tax free, 5.05%. So you do 24,859 times 5.05%, which gives you, and I have the answer key to this one. Oh, you already got it? Yep. 55. Wait a minute.
I think maybe I messed up.
No. Oh, yes, check this out. 36500 minus 1114. I think this number is incorrect. I got 25359. So 25359. So this is 1,280.63. Doesn't seem that bad, right? You made 36,500, and the entire year you're only giving $1,000. It's like $100 a month to the government. Any confusion so far? Okay, then get ready for this. Ready? Woo! This amount, I'm going to draw it as a number line because I think it might be the best way to explain this. As a number line, 62,000. I'm going to draw a number line. You don't have to draw this, but keep it in your head. $0, $62,000. What amount is the first bracket up to? Very quickly. 46,226. Okay. So from 0 to 11141, are you okay? You're okay. Is going to be taxed 5.05%. From here to here. So give me a second. Wait. How much money is that? It is the first $35,790 that you make above the 11,000 is going to be taxed. So far, so good? Visually, is that okay? You are taxed the 5% here. No, you would have to calculate how much of the gray area we're talking about. In other words, out of the 46,226, you have to take away the 11,000 because that's not taxed at all. So the first 35,799 is going to be taxed this much. And then the remaining portion, it spills over into the 9.15% bracket. So to be clear, the first 35,799 above this dotted line will be charged 5%. And then the next, how much is charged 9.15%? I'm going to do the subtraction for you. 62,000 minus this much That is the leftover 15,774. So the amount of money that you made that spills past the 46,000 is taxed a different amount. And that's their argument. Hey, you made more money. You're not in poverty. In Toronto, it is essentially poverty. Okay, you're not in poverty. You have more dues to the government. Because it will be unfair for people making less money because they won't be able to afford groceries, right? So this argument is people have basic needs. No matter how much money or how little money, everyone buys the same groceries, right? So if you're making $1 million, you can technically eat the same food as someone that's making a quarter of that or a fraction of that. So for the people who are not making as much, we'll tax them less because they have to afford the bare essentials. The people that are earning more, well, they can afford a little bit more towards taxes because they're bringing that much more home. They're not in danger of starving. They're not in danger of this or that. And so that's the argument. And take a look at all the other ones. As you make more and more money, they're like, oh, you're way clear of the dangers of starvation or eviction from being or for being homeless. So you can afford more. And so they tax you more. Question. So the richer you are, because you are running a business, a corporation, a big company, a conglomerate, for example, they have different laws. Because it's a company, typically making millions and millions of dollars, they're supposed to pay a lot more. And individually, like a CEO or an owner, they should be paying a lot based on their salary. But that's the loophole. You have to pay based on your income, your salary, or your taxable income, right? They will often do certain things. I'm going to pause this because this topic might go long on things like expensing. Yes, go ahead.
But what happens if you're like just over that?
You still, yeah.
But then what if you get?
If you make $46,227, that $1 is charged that much.
You get taxed over and then end up with less money.
Well, you won't.
What's that like?
You won't. Try it.
42.
42,000?
Like 11,142.
You will only get taxed the $1.
$1.
Yeah. Up until 11141, you don't get taxed at all. So that extra $1, you have to pay 5 cents.
You only get taxed the amount of money over, not. Oh,
Exactly.
So I thought it would be like before.
No. So going back to Rehan, going back to your question, here's an example of an expense. Let's say I am Bill Gates, and part of my company's responsibility is to go to China to sell to the companies there. Be like, you need Microsoft for this, that. Well, to make money, don't I have to take a plane? So that plane ticket is something I can say, that's not from my income. I don't want to pay for it. The company has to pay for it. So, well, yes, that's an expense. So instead of paying out of pocket, they'll do that. So they could, so if you were like a bad owner, you can essentially travel the world for a year and expense it to your company and say, I needed that for my work. And then you collect your income, right? So you essentially are spending everything you need to, right? And then you keep your income. Like there's a lot of different ways that they can do it. It's hard to get into it. I want to finish the math before we go on. Yes?
So I have just one question. I see on the other side is federal income tax. Your citizens get to pay provincial
And federal. Yep. You got different responsibilities because think about it. Well, thank you for reminding me. Why do I have to pay provincial tax? In the city, in the province, you are paying for a variety of things.
Oh dear.
So that is the expense of, yeah, okay? Consider this. Oh, you're blowing it up for me now. Great, thank you.
I moved the paper.
Yes. So let's talk about this for a second as the math portion, for as far as the math is concerned, the first bracket is 35, not let me type it, it's meter. 35,799 times 0.055. That's your first bracket. This, okay? Plus 15774 times 0.0915. That is your earning, or that is your tax. So this portion equals, if I do the math, that portion is equal to 1771.79. And this portion is equal to 1443.32. Therefore, three, 2, 1, 5, 1, 1. You see the difference? It's a big deal. Long story short, in this example, the maximum amount of money you can pay tax for the first bracket is this. Anyone who makes more than 46226 will always be paying this much. The amount of money you pay on top of that depends on, well, how far do you spill over into the next bracket? And for this person, the extra 15,774 that they made is not taxed 5%, it's taxed 9%. And so, whoa, isn't that crazy? You're paying almost double the tax just because you spilled over $46,000.
That's what I was saying. How could that be fair?
Well, this amount only is charged that much. Okay? All right. If you understand this, all of the future calculations will be easier. So let's take a look. The last question can seem a little confusing, so I'm going to try to clarify and we'll copy it down together. Ready? Last one. Here we go. I might need more space, so you try to write it small, okay? All right, please take a look. This question is meant to be a little confusing. Please consider this. A payment, a pay stub, I'm gonna say a pay stub is 5,962. The gross income is that much. I'm going to calculate how often the pay stub is. You don't have to worry about why I thought about this, but the question itself is a little confusing. So consider what I'm doing here. I know this is bi-weekly because I'm going to do this. 155,000 divided by the amount that I got in my pay stub was approximately 25.99. It's basically a bi-weekly pay. And so I will calculate tax, then divide by 26. That's all I'm gonna do. Okay, I didn't mean for the question to be confusing. I don't really design this myself, but just know that I will be doing that later on. A pay stub was 5,962. How much would the tax be for that one pay stub? Let's go back to our categories, our brackets. I'm going to bring it back here. Which brackets am I in? 155,000. Am I in this bracket? Well, I have to go through it. And then, do I use this bracket? What you do for the next one. So we go through 5.05%, then we go through 9.15%, and then we have to calculate this much percent. Am I making more than 150,000? Yeah. So that last little bit, I need to calculate 12.16% on it. So I'm going to do 4 brackets here.
So you only calculate the tax, that actually makes it not fair, that makes sense.
I actually had to learn this when I was in my 20s. When I made my first paycheck as a teacher, and I was like, what the hell is this? And it wasn't without online things. I had to go through this, what is it, newsprint paper, this booklet that had all this lingo. It was very difficult. So let's do this. Nice to get this. All right, so let's do this. Ready? The first bracket is, what was the first bracket? So up to 46226 at 5.05% plus, what is it? 46226 to how much? 92454. At what percent? 9.15% plus, what's next? 92454 to how much money? Bracket. Look at the bracket. What's the maximum I can charge in the next bracket? 150. Thank you. I just need to make sure everyone's following. And that is at 11.16%. And then finally, anything above 1,500 at 12.16%. 4 brackets. Can you imagine doing this as an accountant? Disclaimer, accountants now use automated things like spreadsheets and programs and coding to help make their lives easier. All of this can be calculated automatically simply by using a website, but you need to know where the calculations are coming from. That's why we're going through it. You ready? Okay, so the bracket number 1. So this is the 5.05% bracket. Here we go. How much was the amount? 46226 minus your personal allowance, I guess, times 0.0505. Someone do that for me, please. No. Someone with the calculator, please get this done. I will move on to the next. The 9.15% bracket is someone tell me what that is. Next one. So I'm doing the 11.16% bracket. I need to calculate 150,000 minus 92,454 multiplied by 11%. Someone tell me what that is. And lastly, I have to figure out how much I had to pay for the 12.16% bracket and take a look at how this is a little different. There. working through. While people might just be copying, I need to talk to you. This is the limit of 5%, but this much is untaxed. Next, this is the limit between for all the money you earn for 9.15%. So the maximum minus the minimum, this is how much of your cash is going to multiply with 9%. Then your next bracket is 150, all the way down to 92,000. So 150,000 minus 92,454, that's going to be multiplied to 11%. And then the last little bit, and that extra $5,000 that you made on top of that, that little tiny bit is going to be charged 12%. The calculator, first one, that number should be familiar with the previous. Do that. I'll get Elliot to do that. Norman, can you give me the next one then? Excuse me. Shameless plug, even here we have bed nets. Important. Where are these 4 girls? Yep, go ahead. 862. We should round it to 2 cents. 2 decimal places. Okay. Elliot, how about the first one?
45,660.
No, that's too big. Too big.
I was gonna say.
It should be very similar to our example B, which came out to 1,771.79. Just double check that for me, please.
No, it's 1,807.
800?
Yeah.
No. 146,226 minus 11141. Multiply that by. Yeah, I get 79. Do the subtraction first. Be careful. And this is why, you know, we typically ask machines to help us out, because all I have to do is punch in numbers correctly. Did someone do 11%? Yep. 22 and 13. Woo! That extra little bit, well, not the extra little bit, the extra $5,000, $50,000 you made. Look at how much more you pay in taxes, right? And then lastly, the last $5,000 gets charged 12%. Yep. 6. Just on the dot. Perfect. Okay. So if we added it up, the total amount should be, I think. Let's try it. $1,771.79, 4,229.86, 6,422.13, 608. Yep. You would get tax of $13,031.78 per year. And remember, you're getting paid bi-weekly. So divide that by 26 means every pay stub, you are paying a tax of $501.22. This is bi-weekly. That's how much you're giving the government. A little rough, right? And this is just to Ontario. Everyone? You see that, can you go to up on your sheet again? How much was the lowest percentage bracket? We're moving on to federal, to Canada. What's the lowest percentage bracket? 15. So the lowest percentage bracket, you're giving 5% to the province, 15% to the country. Whatever you work, 20% minimum is gone. That's why people say there are two things in life that are sure. One thing is death, the other is taxes. The reason why we did 5 by 26, it only pertains to the question. It has nothing to do with the calculation. The question proposed that you're getting paid bi-weekly. So what is my tax bi-weekly? I just took the year and divided by 26, that's all. Okay, so it has nothing to do with actual taxes per se, it's just part of the question. All right. Let's talk very briefly because I think you could probably try this by yourself as practice. Okay, let me talk about it just a second. Moving down to federal income tax. This is exactly the same as provincial, except the brackets are a little bit different. The federal will tax you the 15%, quote unquote, the lowest bracket, up to $50,000, not 42. Also, you do not have to give money to the country for the first $14,400 that you make. So the personal allowance is a little bit different. I'm going to do the first example for you, but I hope that you'll give the other two examples a shot. It's the exact same principle as what we did for the provincial, because I do want to go into CPP and EI. Yes?
Do you pay like after one another, or if you make 50,000, 100,000, you pay
Both at the same time.
and federal?
Okay? What do you mean by 100?
You
Yep.
pay provincial tax, 100,000, federal tax.
Yeah, yeah. On both. They're like two separate companies that you have to pay. Yep. So together you're paying a certain crazy tax. So here we go. The only difference between this federal and the previous provincial is the amount that you are allowed to not tax beforehand. Okay, so please consider the 15% applies to the first 50,197. 24.5% applies to the next $50,195 that you make. So I did the subtraction for you. Let me write it out for the next one. Yes, Ellie?
Is this taxing on top of tax?
Correct.
So
Yep. So look at again, you missed it. I think you missed it while I was telling the class. Take a look at the percent here. And the previous, go to the previous page on provincial. You automatically, no matter how much money you make, you're losing 20%. You lose more as you make more money. Yes. Overall, your gross. Everything is calculated on your gross, right? Now you're starting. I like that. You're starting to roll, right? If you pay income first, or if you pay provincial first, then you have less money. So if I calculate a percent on my less money, then you have to pay less. That's good thinking. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, right? So let's think of other ways you can save your money instead of paying tax. Oh, that's recorded. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Anyways, what do federal taxes pay for? A lot of other things. From things like military. Fun fact, the US spends more money on military than all other countries combined. Okay, very interesting. Highways, hey, someone's got to fix highways and all those bumpy potholes, right? Someone's got to do this and that. Pension, yes. Security, yes. A lot of different, like, RCMP, whatever you want to call it, okay? Let's do this. Let me write this down so that it will be easier for your calculations in the future. You charge 29% for all the money between 155 all the way to 221. Specifically, you pay 29% on the next $66,083 you make above 155. And then here is just whatever. So example A, you earn 36,500. How much of that is not taxed? 36,500 minus 14398 gives you 22,102. So 22,102 multiplied by 15% gives you 3,315. It's a lot of money. One of the tasks I give you for homework is try calculating the tax for B and C. It's the same salary as our previous example, but your brackets are now different. There's one more thing I'm going to do before I set you free today. Any questions on the brackets? Yes. No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen sequentially. It happens at the same time. So you take how much you earn here, right? You have to pay 3,300 to Canada, and from here you pay 5% to Ontario. Yeah, it's not 5% of like what's left over after you pay. It's 5% of what you made. Yeah, it's it's the larger of the two. Okay, so try these two. The last thing I want to do is talk very briefly about CPP and EI, because those are the two main things that will also be found in your pay stubs or in your future. And then I'm gonna let you free and get you to walk around, get some water, and cool off from this stupid weather. Okay? Stay put, stay engaged for just another 5 minutes. Okay. CPP. CPP and EI are exactly the same principle. So consider this, all right? CPP, you have an obligation to pay the government a certain amount based on what you make, because when you retire, they're going to pay you back. I'll say it one more time. When you retire, the government will try to take care of you. But where do they get that money? They get the money from the amount that you paid them when you were young and energetic. Okay? And then they will pay you back when you are older and not as energetic. Here's how it works. Just like before, you do not have to pay pension, or you don't have to pay into pension for the first $3,500 that you make. But for every single dollar you make on top of that, you have to pay 5.7% into the pension fund.
You have to pay money when you're retired?
No, listen carefully. When you're young, you don't have to do anything if you're making only $3,500 a year. Every dollar on top of that is going to be charged 5.7%. You have to pay into it. And every year, if you make too much money, it doesn't matter. They will take a maximum of $3,500 from you.
When you're retired?
No, when you're working from your income. When you make $3,500, I said when you make. That's why. So if you make $10,000, you don't have to pay pension for the first $3,500, but the remaining $6,500 will be charge 5.7%, and you're gonna give that to the government. And they're gonna do stuff with it. And they will take 5.7% from you every single time until you hit 3,500. And they won't take any more. Why do they put a limit on that? Is because when you get older, at least this year, the maximum amount that they will give you is $12.50 a month. Why? Because the maximum you gave them was this much a year. Does that make sense? Because you have a maximum payment, they will also have a maximum payment back. That's CPP. Yes. Correct. Well, so here's the part that's complicated. Everyone, I know this is dreary because the weather is terrible. I wish it would help us. Here's where it gets complicated. You know how I asked you to calculate your tax based on how much you made? You are paying this money to the government, right? And you don't get taxed on this. You just give that cash to them. When they give you this amount back, they pretend that's income and they will tax you on this. So you pay them and you don't have to pay tax on this amount. Okay? So they take the money from you before they tax you. And then they'll give the money back to you and say, you have to pay tax on that later. That's how it works. CPP, RRSP. Have you ever heard your parents talk about RRSPs? That's what's happening. This is how RRSP works, and exactly like pension. Let's say Elliot made $1 million. With me so far? Okay. You have to tax. You have to get taxed on that, right? Before he gets taxed, he's like, whoa, government. I'm going to put half of this into an RRSP. You can only tax me on $500,000. Yes, that's why it's called an RRSP.
Can you take money out of
Well, you can. That's why it's a plan, right? Well, if you do, there's a huge penalty. So it's like, government only tax me on 500 because this other 500 is in a special secured plan, right? So this thing grows as you work and work and become age 65. And then Elliot's like, oh, I'm old now, I can retire, I need an income, my bag of money here is now going to pay me. Did I pay tax on this bag of money yet? No. And so when I get this, it's considered income, and the government's like, all right, it's now time for me to tax it. That's like that. It's a pension. Yes. Of course. The whole point of that is you're putting it into a thing, and it's a registered retirement savings plan. So banks or the government or whoever is in charge will try to grow that money for you. They'll probably make a cut from that. And as you get money back from this, well, yeah.
Will they charge when they're not made tax? Or will they just tax?
No, it's like an investment, right? They might make a cut because they invest the money for you. They are your broker, so to speak, I suppose. There's so many different RRSPs out there, so I can't speak for all of them, but there are some things like that.
What's the penalty?
If you take money from your RRSP before the age of 65, that will interrupt the banker or the broker's calculation of how much they can pay you, right? And if you think about compound interest from our previous lesson, you know how your graph goes like this, like this, like this, and it shoots up really fast? Remember how it looks like? Right? So wouldn't it be nice if you can take the money out here?
Yeah.
But if you take the money out here, what are you causing everyone to lose out on? The huge updraft, like the huge increase. So the bankers are like, yo, you promised to keep the money here. We're losing out on so much cash. Well, we're not going to lose money because of your decision. You pay.
Would it feel like really successful and you didn't know you were really successful and you put some of your savings from before into your RRSP and then you're like, oh my God, I've got this massive business and it's grown so much now I want to retire at 40, but I can't access the money in my RRSP.
Correct. With the penalty, yeah. Well, if you had that much money, then you won't even need to.
Yeah, so.
This money will continue to grow until you hit the age of 65, at which point you can start taking money out. All right, these are really good questions, and I'm glad we're recording, but I hope that the lesson itself isn't too broken. Employment insurance is the same thing. I wanted to speak very quickly about when you can earn employment insurance. It is when you are without a job and it's not your fault. You're doing a great job, you did everything that you were supposed to do and more, you're bringing value to your company or whatever, but because of COVID, because you got someone crashed your car, so for whatever reason, you were out of a job. Even parental leave, right? Like maternity leave after you have after you bear a child. I mean, your body went through a really tough experience, so you need time to recover. That's not your fault. That's unfair, right? And so if you are on maternity leave because you gave birth, or you're on parental leave because you are supporting someone who gave birth or whatever, you can tap into your EI. Where does that money come from? Well, it comes from you. You paid into a money pot, so you can take money out from a money pot. Just like CPP. Every time you make money, you have to pay 1.58% of your income into this money pot called employment insurance, up to a maximum of this much every year. So every working person in this world or in this country is putting in this much every year into this money pot. Yes. In the case that you can freely, without any worry, apply for employment insurance and you will get something back to a degree until you get back on your feet and find another source of income. Correct, you would. So someone who makes, let's say, $300,000 in a salary, which let's say like a VP of a company, or like $500,000 a year, it's a lot of money. Essentially, half of that will be taxed.
And then you still pay tax on retail that you buy.
Of course, that's sales tax and what. No one told you have to buy that, caramel macchiato, right? No one told you had to buy that, expensive luxury white bread. I don't know, right? You know what I mean? And so there's a sales tax on it. So for here, there is no deduction. There is no like minimum amount. Right off the bat, from the first dollar you make, you are paying into employment insurance up to a maximum of $952. In other words, I'll do it very quickly. If you want to copy this is the last thing I'm going to do, and then you can take a breather. I'm running out of breath too. 36,500 times 0.0158. If I make 36,500 in 1 year, I am paying the government this much in that year for employment insurance. It's not a bad deal considering how you can tap into it if you are in trouble. Next, even if I make this much, I am still paying 1.58%. And if you do that as a calculation, that becomes 979.60 as EI. What do you notice about that number compared to the one on the right? What do you notice? Yep. Therefore, you only have to pay up to that amount. Okay? So someone like this, you can tell it right now, $155,000. Is it more than this? Yeah. That person will be paid $952.74 as well. But if that person were to be out of a job, they would get the same amount as this person who was out of a job, because they both paid the same amount.
What about A?
Well, that person wouldn't be getting as much because the work that they do didn't generate as much income. So that's the fairness, I suppose. Now that was a lot, everyone. I know. Your goal, I'll tell you this right now. Your goal, the main goal, is to understand that there are brackets in tax. And there are deductions in tax. And there's even more to it. Let me tell you another thing. If you make too much money, if you make too much money, you have to pay a surtax. You have to pay ahead of time. Let's say I made $200,000 on a business. Let's take my father-in-law, for example. He's running a donut conglomerate, okay? As a wholesale. And he's making a lot of money every month. That's it. I actually don't know. That's more private information. But let's say he's making a lot of money. The government knows that they're making a lot of money. So they know there's going to be a lot of tax. Do I want to tax a company like $1 million the year after? No. To make sure that they are really financially responsible and they have all their accounting down, they actually get to pay the year up right away. Here's another thing. If you make enough money, there is a health contribution that more money makers have to pay, whereas not as large money makers have to pay. It's complicated. In other words, I'm not concerned of whether you know every single multiplication. You must be aware of the concept behind it, so that when you get older, you have something to work with. Today, I hope that you will be comfortable with the concept of the brackets and the deductions. Full disclosure, at the end of this week, probably Thursday and Friday, you're going to be introducing a class assignment where you're going to be working with money, right? It might be something about working with salaries or working with an income. I'm not going to tell you if you're going to pretend you are a young undergrad making 5-6 figures, or whether you're going to still pretend to be a high school student working a summer job. But either way, whatever amount you decide, well, we say that you are making, I hope that you are comfortable being able to calculate your taxes and deductions. That's good. No, but your parents do. Because you are a dependent, so you have to report how much you make to them, and they will file that under their taxes.
Really?
Yes. It's not your income.
What if you make?
Well, it's not their income, right? But they will file it saying my dependent made this much
Say
money.
you're like a child star and you make like $10 million, the parents have to like file that.
That is a realm I'm not quite sure of, but
Another question, but
they
it
do.
doesn't do anything if you make under the tax limit.
yes,
right?
the personal allowable amount. Okay, any other questions? Because that was a long one. I don't know if you'll ever have to visit this video again, but if you do, I hope it is useful. I am going to stop it right there. And let's take a breather from this stupid weather. Yeah.